I presume you heard the defense counsel's summation examination? Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov, I did. And Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Core, blimey. This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windy Banks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, wasn't it? It wasn't, Ash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull out me dukes out me lazy Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers. God blimey. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the counter. We'd never done nothing of the sort. Oi, how'd you figure that out? Bit of a conflict here, wasn't there, boys? You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you will tell the truth. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see, made both of us jump and all that stuff went flying. So, and then you put it neatly back? Like, lummy, if it didn't give me a fright. We was thinking the chute would come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered straight on in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? I find it hard to believe you got startled by a gunshot, and then decided, oh fuck, I better put all this back. So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Windy Bank's countertop. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up. Yeah. He's not happy. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made their mess. The way you say it, we hardly sounds like roughs at all. We don't, Ash, we don't. Can he make us sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be coincidence that these men showed up at Windy Banks. There's more to their testimony, I'm sure of it. Well, the one I want to press on first is the part where they put all the stuff back. It all sent flying. Right. This is the part I have the most trouble believing. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun. Oh, yeah, we was a bit antsy there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up. If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Oh, good advice, miss. Truth be told, me mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. A mental note made, miss. After that, we lent it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or something. So they clapped the derbies on us and like winking. Man. Fucking Cockneys speak such a weird language, dudes. And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct? Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, doesn't it, eh? Alright, that didn't reveal as much as I had hoped it would. So we're gonna go and start at the beginning now.
Hold it!
If that's the case, then why did you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Which is exactly what we were doing. Well said, Ringo, me old China. We'd only land ourselves in even more trouble.
And in fact, now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourself in even more trouble.
That's rotten luck,
says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's canter?
We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up.
He is not happy at all.
Sorry. It was what we heard the gunshot, see?
So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter.
Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This big old bag of nerves needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud, alright, blimey. Me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big brother here screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. And that tangled in some marionette. What knocked over a picture frame was not what knocked them scales on the floor.
You really mastered working quietly then.
What a racket! Me granny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that.
So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise.
And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then BAM!
Bro, what have you got to say about this?
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add?
Like I said, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels.
No, something to add to their testimony? You seemed to react just now. Did it make you think of something?
It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't have even bothered to mention it, only... Well, fact is, case don't get solved if you ignore the little details.
How about you just tell us what's on your mind?
As you know, we brought these fellas to the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave told a slightly different story. Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something before the gunshot. Might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it was only a minor detail, but still, I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony hasn't been any more sloppy than it hitherto has proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear. Easy. We'll get it right this time. That's it. Yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs.
What you are, Gov? Just before a gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
That's so. But, so, you allegedly entered after they were in the storeroom. She already had the gun by that point. So you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously.
We did, Gov, we did. Although I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun!
Excellent performance, lads. Career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from?
Of course we could, from the other side of the door, behind the counter it was.
From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, It was that of the victim, Mr. Windybank.
I mean, Granny's life it was. Of course it was. On his Granny's life. Of course it was.
So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Windybank and the sound of his voice.
Eh? So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas?
Yes, Counsel, indeed it would.
Nah, we didn't know nothing about the geezer. How am I supposed to know it was the bloke in the fancy clobbers giving us the evil eye?
He is so angry. If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true.
On me Granny's life it is. On his Granny's life it must be.
It's a good job, his Granny said. To summarize, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you heard the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor.
Yeah, it makes it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget, we tidied up like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it.
The bloke what owned the place was holding a gun. Wait, hold on, where's that come from? You saw him? You're saying Windybank had a gun in his hands?
Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving guns at each other must have gotten pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say if you don't want to get shot. Didn't sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say.
Mr. Windybank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping. He'd repeatedly put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course.
Good grief! Extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger. Only the person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed that trigger instead of wasting time shouting.
And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot.
It was more or less the same time, Gov. Give me that gun. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
We heard the sound of him get before everything went quiet. After that, we done did a slapdash job tidying the place up.
Alright. So, sliding over here. No, that's, we want this one. Which part? Nope, not that picture. This picture. That picture.
Objection!
You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windybank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct?
That's it, Gov. You've got the picture. He has, Nash. He has, no question.
And yet, the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windybank was not in possession of a firearm.
Objection!
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more?
Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is lacking, counsel. Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could have been about to turn the tables, eh?
Hardly likely.
No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Ugh. Continue with the cross-examination, and heed my earlier warning, witnesses. A skulkin's never skulking.
Alright, now what? Well, so this also means that you had to have seen him to say he was holding a gun, but allegedly you also never saw him. So I would like to know, like, how do I point that out, though? That they never saw him. I don't think I can out of any of that, can I? I already pressed it, so that's not going to go anywhere else. Alright, so this one now. So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door, then?
Not on your life. It was deathly quiet after that. It did put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening.
Yes, of course, it was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe.
It was, Gov, it was, from the inside. Right, so we have had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we?
Unless there was some other way to get a view inside of the storeroom. Like through a keyhole or a spy hole, perhaps.
Don't ring no bells, no light, no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see, but one day we'll really cut the mustard.
Please, cut it out. But as we know, behind the door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there unconscious with the gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom?
That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to.
And then straight into the... I know what the issue here is, but like... Oh, we never had a chance. We couldn't have shot the corner because we never had a chance. And why would that be, we believe?
What? 'Cause it's true, innit? The place was totally empty when we went in.
At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor. Correct?
You've got it, mister. Down to a T.
So the Skulking Brothers never encountered Mr. Windybank. No, it's not true, but I'm wondering how to present this information. Yeah, I know I have to find the inconsistency. It's okay. Maybe I show the floor plan. Because, like, you can't present another part of their testimony as evidence. So I'm going to go with, I said this one? No, not that one. Alright, well, there was one I think I forgot to press on, right? Maybe it's that. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up.
Wait, no, I did press on this. Yeah, no, I already pressed on this once. So how do I present this evidence? Oh, maybe this photo? Yes, because he doesn't have the gun in his hand in the photo. So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windybank, was wielding a gun, is that correct?
That's it, Gov, you've got the picture. Yes, Nash, yes, no question.
And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windybank was not holding a firearm of any description.
You what? Gordon Benedict, that ain't right.
I get that we're going with this line of reasoning, but the part, like, they also said they never actually saw the guy, and yet in another part they said he was holding a gun. So they obviously had to have seen him. There can be no question that the victims were... Well, no, they would have obviously had to have seen him, which would contradict other parts of the testimony. But I suppose this method gets to kind of the same place. There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Windybank was found at the scene. Miss Windybank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand.
Yeah, that maul tooler used the victim's own gun. Give me that gun. Bam. Kind of thing.
Stay exactly where you are, right there. Oh yeah, the entry wound's in the back, isn't it? If the crime had taken place as you so colorfully described, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments.
Goodness, are you sure, Counsel?
You intrigue me, my learned friend, but let's see some evidence. It's the autopsy report says in the back, right? The autopsy's over here. Yes, from the back. Nope, don't do that. Back it up.
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot.
Indeed, while the two events are happening almost simultaneously, so we've been led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker were facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. So, as I've stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
Yeah. But it's on the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own...
Okay, now we have to point that part out. Come on. Did I just hear you right? You actually saw Windy Bank holding a gun.
Something like that might have slipped out.
Mm-hmm. See, I caught this ages ago. Glad we're catching up. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night of the night in question, they actually saw, with their own eyes, the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Nash, yeah. Order. Witnesses, explain yourselves. Well, the thing is, if we're supposed to,
Damn, doesn't even bang, just so slowly. It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
Ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, see, we...
Cut it out, Nash, cut it out! If we blab no, you know what you'll do to us.
He? Who are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you.
Bruv, come on. The game's up.
But he'll have our guts for garters.
In case it hasn't sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well,
do we have to?
On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and had heaved a sigh of release when the geezer showed his mug.
Give me that gun, he bellowed, then flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we had it.
For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled out my gun on him, and then we legged it through the front door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing.
What the fuck, dude? Like, this whole testimony is fucked up. So what happened here exactly? So now you're telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
Well,
We find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But be honest, Governor. This time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide. Very well. Counsel for the defense.
Yes, my lord. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Like, man, your testimony is all over the place, dog. Y'all are terrible at this. Alright. Nope, not history. Press. When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windybank.
Who else? Sorry, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously, but we never thought no one was gonna come out of the back room like that.
The back room being the pawnbroker's storeroom.
Yeah, that must be where he popped up from.
So it would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises. Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well, but that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windybank into the storeroom at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone? Oh, I don't know. And didn't they say they ran into the back room? Did you see the accused at that time?
What? That Multula couldn't tell you. No way, Cobber. We had bigger fish to fry. The old geezer just lost it. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Windybank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claimed that you heard him yelling on the other side of the storeroom door.
Oh, did we?
But the truth is he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Was the victim, Mr. Windybank, wielding a gun at that time?
Was he ever? Blimey lummy, a great ugly barrel he had, pointed right on me frontispiece. Frontipiece?
So what you're saying is you definitely saw Windybank with the gun.
It is, Gov. It is spot on. Then all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know who was going through.
You were clearly all going for each other.
Like Nash said, we thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong and knocks. Chucked me over the counter.
Yeah, I noted you mentioned in the counter in your previous testimony, too.
Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, candlestick and some skull whatnot. They got tangled up in some marionette what knocked over a picture frame what knocked them scales on the floor.
So in fact it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock these things off the counter. But so then how did they get back on the counter?
Well, Big Brother here went flying over the counter like a gunshot, I can tell you, and the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If you'd been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds.
At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right, when the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police. Poor Mr. Windybank. I pulled my gun on him, and then, then he legged it through the front door. Okay. Never mind, I had misread it earlier. Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windybank?
No, never. I was just, Looking out for me bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget.
By a man whose shop was being burgled. And then the man fled the scene into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through the door and shut himself in.
There's something about that doesn't quite ring true. Yeah, what? Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him with a gun. Yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Windybank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door, in which case, how did the gun end up in Windybank's hands again? I have no idea, but that is strange, isn't it? A little inconsistency could be significant.
Look, point is, me and me brother here. That's right, Nash, that's right, me and me brother here. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
You say you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was from the inside. We know it was because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't have budged an inch.
So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could have possibly shot the victim, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade.
It would appear so. What say you to that?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could have possibly shot Windybank? There could have been. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
What? What's that look for?
From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face, the course of this trial changed completely.
It did?
That is what is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Windybank, and it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer. We're going to point out the hatch in the door, and then we're going to end up finding out that it wasn't there a moment ago, aren't we? You have my attention. In that case, let us return to the plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be?
Counsel, you must provide answers in respect of two conundrums.
Two?
Indeed. Namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? Where was the victim?
Understood. Are you alright, Runo? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person would have fired the gun. Do I click here or do I click on the door? I probably click on the room. The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location. In answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim? Right there. The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Windybank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired?
So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom?
Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony,
I pulled my gun on him, then he legged it through that door and in the back room.
If Mr. Windybank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time.
Ah,
It was at precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life that the brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom.
Yeah, yeah.
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial? Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner, his report states the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself, or someone on the ground. Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could. Ah, of course! He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. I don't know about... I'm not sold on that one. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory. Like, he would have needed to be pretty stooped for that. So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter. I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim the corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock? But, what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Very well, counsel. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is the victim was shot from outside. In which case, who shot and locked the door? Gina. Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? From her perspective, someone just got shot by somebody outside the room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I am inclined to say, well... Yes, that's no, it's not. Half-baked notions have no place, counsel. Remember that. But of course Ginny locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Well, if Ginny's in that... I was Ginny in the situation. I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean... those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Windybank were in the storeroom. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Windybank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom.
Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv.
If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by a bullet, Mr. Windybank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is what would the defendant have done in that moment?
Ah, I see where you're going with this, Gov.
Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Windybank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it! But I mean, we ain't the ones who done it. We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on, we never shoot no one.
You literally did shoot someone. I know for a fact you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Herlock Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windybank's murder.
Yeah.
Where does this leave us? You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket? I should have known it was those brothers. That was amazing, Runo. All of the members of the jury seem to be on your side. I know. First time ever, and probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely this will get the verdict of not. An admirable effort, my learned friend. What's this now? He's laughing. You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zykes? I find the defense's argument most persuasive.
I dare say, such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettiforgery here.
What?
The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw.
A fatal flaw?
Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing?
I said he's going to point out that if they shot him, the murder weapon was Windybanks, it wasn't the brothers. I say, Lord Van Zykes, might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground,
The fatal flaw, as my learned friend's argument, is really very simple. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets.
By George, count bullets?
Oh dear. He noticed then. What's everyone talking about? Their gun had only one bullet missing, but 2 shots were fired. Also, why they wouldn't have said it was the murder weapon. The murder weapon wouldn't have been the gun that was in the room with Gina. Counsel.
Yes, sir?
Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime.
2 bullets.
Correct. The first, which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival.
Indeed, the defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet. The bullet which injured Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun.
Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each.
Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Sholmes right before your eyes.
Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find that if the single bullet was fired from the brother's gun that hit Sholmes, it means...
Windybank, not shot by same gun. Stop. Only 1 bullet. Stop. Exactly. Yes, this Nipponese street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny.
Order, order!
Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dredges of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery.
Lord Van Zykes!
But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. That disc. Yes, it's McGilded's disc, we remember. Yes, that music box disc, McGilded's music box disc.
The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Windybank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly doesn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence.
Good gracious!
Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on the account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril.
I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel.
But, Lord Von Zykes, I am...
Inspector Gregson? Yes, Inspector?
We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that the disc wouldn't be used as evidence.
What's this about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zykes at all. I am unaware of any such meeting.
But those were the instructions right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent.
Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord.
Indeed. Bailiff!
The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character, which is awfully rude, just going straight for somebody's character like that. I would like to submit this blood to analysis. Oh, Runo, look, this is blood. Yes, you're right. It's just a smear, but definitely blood. I feel as though I might have noticed that before. That's my time to shine. Alright, hold still with that disc. Can we get this done quickly? In a flash. What color is that? Oh, a lovely bright shade again. Wait, that color. What is it? It's green. That's the blood that's on the calendar. It's not the first time we've seen that color, is it? Right? That's Sholmes that's green. I have to check, because when you're colorblind, things are hard. Yeah. So this isn't Sholmes. Yeah. We'd been operating under the assumption this was Sholmes' bullet, but apparently it wasn't. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once, for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear, it wasn't even for 5 minutes, Runo. My lord, wonder if I might say something at this point, sir. Proceed, Mr. Foreman. Been stumbling about a bit in a fog up till now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer's molly obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh no, here we go again. Here it comes! Ladies and gentlemen, present your leadings.
Guilty.
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 I like how he's headbutting the desk now, because obviously he's got to keep his hands sterile. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. How dare he use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be. But there's one thing I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Windybank. That's beyond doubt. Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination. I don't even need to ask you anymore, Counsel. I know you are. The Air Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, explain on what grounds you find the defendant guilty.
Judicial findings. Once a rogue, always a road, I say. Different breed to us law-abiding citizens.
As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted. You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief. The accused attempted a theft the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead.
I am ballistics expert. I have seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about guns. Fascinating.
It would seem there is little remaining room for doubt.
Hate to admit it, I was rather bowled over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like a house of cards, I saw that I'd jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more. Whoops.
Ugh, the whole courtroom is turning again. It's not fair. That prosecutor's being mean. Just because Ginny's done something she shouldn't have done in the past, that doesn't make her a murderer.
Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Here's to the truth coming out. Eventually.
That's enough preamble, counsel, proceed.
Yes, my lord.
Alright, gamers. Let's press on the old man immediately. You never know what he's gonna actually say. Alright. No.
Hold it!
Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line. Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that it is nothing to do with this trial, to be honest. Huh? I mean, there's no question that the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It's quite inexplicable, don't you think? I almost don't want to ask, but the surgery you've been muttering about, you were operating on... What was that fellow's name? Hairlich? No. Hairlock? No. Hairlock. Herlock Sholmes, by any chance? Yes, good lord! It was that Hairlock fellow! What? You're the surgeon that operated on Sholmes? That's right. Using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. I was a fairly major op, I can tell you. This is crazy. Let me see. The fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and couldn't find the bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up. I hate to state the obvious, but... Yes? Surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting. The counsel for the defense is correct. As is clearly shown in this photographic print, the bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Sholmes hit him in the stomach region. Now this is not the judge still. Then exited his body and lodged into the shop wall where the calendar was hanging by the door. I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem three-dimensionally. Ah, who do you think I am, son? Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do. As soon as I saw the wound to the man's stomach, I flipped him over. There's no exit wound. Are you saying that you checked his back? Of course I did. That there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign that the bullet had left the body. But what? That's the point. The only logical conclusion was the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I set about slicing him up. And I'm still none the wiser even now. Can somebody explain how it happened? Can someone solve the mystery? Sorry, I thought I heard a noise. And ballistics expert came to mind. It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together. Okay, so... So we're gonna pit this guy. Who was it that said 2 bullets were fired? Yes. No, because yes, no, not that, right? Okay, hold on. Let's consult Mr. Ballistics.
Hold it!
I thought you were a tourist.
Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please.
There's no way he's just visiting tourists. So you're a ballistic expert. Who knew?
I have much experience with guns.
Ah.
I have lived through many, how do you say, extreme, violent bath of, blood of,
extreme violent bloodbaths, perhaps.
Those extreme violent blood baths. English is very different language.
Considering the sort of people you associated with, I'm surprised you have a tongue.
Anyway, if you have questions about bullets and guns, you ask me. There is nothing I do not know, no mystery I cannot solve. But, if possible, please, only in Russian language.
Not very confident in his English. Yes, okay, so we are going to pit him against the surgeon. Pit.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict. The idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other. A ballistic expert.
Pit.
On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Skulkin brothers, but since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6.
Hello, my name is Villain. Pleased to meet you.
This apparent contradiction in the facts that is so clearly troubling Juror 4. Are you able to explain the mystery?
I have seen a very similar situation in Motherland. It was night, there was blizzard. I was running away along Mountain Road in freezing cold.
Golly!
The snow was piling high on both sides of the road. It was very narrow and dangerous. My pursuers had hunting rifles, and they were on dog sleds.
Mental note, don't ask many questions.
I was shot from behind, and I fell down in snow. And this situation was very similar to what I hear today from Doctor. They could not find a bullet in my body, and no sign of, how do you say, exit wound.
Then where did the bullet go?
Bullet never hit me.
Well, if that never hit you, why did you fall down?
Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side.
What? The broken lantern. Maybe that?
One small piece, very sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound and looks just like bullet wound.
Good gracious.
Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside, and that is solution to mystery of disappearing bullet.
But that doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker's. Not some snowy mountain road in another country. Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario. Runo, where exactly was Hurley shot again? According to the report, in his stomach. Sort of around this area, I think. Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt. Oh, a pouch. Actually, I might have noticed something like that. Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps these 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals. What? Really? Doctor, where is the pouch Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that on his person when he arrived at the hospital, as far as I remember.
If I may,
Lord Van Sykes.
While I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination, I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber just outside the courtroom. Sorry? As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and Sholmes was found injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment.
Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence relating to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact it has not been touched since the incident occurred.
Very well. While extremely unconventional during a summation examination, I must demand the prosecution presents the item in question. Bring forth Mr. Sherlock Sholmes' pouch. I see. So this is the pouch, and one of them's broken. It was on the night in question.
Look at that! One of the files is broken, and the leather around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded.
Exploded?
So, that night, the bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun struck Sholmes' pouch.
And it was the glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injuries.
This bullet did not penetrate victim, but was deflected into wall of shop. A delightfully complex aroma.
Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved, at least.
Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered.
But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man.
Thank you very much. Glad I could help.
Due to its bearing on the conundrum has been just solved, the court will sequester this scruffy pouch.
Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy.
So we gotta obviously have a piece. Someone struggling to alter opinion, huh?
Please, my lord, a little more time.
Yeah. Let's have a gander. Ideally,
we see a bullet here.
It's not looking good. But the bullet came out this... No! It is there! Yes, it's still here. It's really scorched. Oh, the strap is broken too. Look. Let's see where the bullet hit. Let me see. Yeah, fuck yeah! Here we go, baby. What the iris? Look. Behind where the broken file was. Can you see it? Ah! That's the Skulkin brothers' bullet. What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is there were 3 bullets fired. We found exactly what that juror was talking about. The 3rd bullet. It's time to press that juror again. Alright. Who said 2? It was the maid, I suspect, right? Yes, so press. It's the number of bullets that has you convinced. Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlor maid asks how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings. Well, that's logical, I suppose. Although, yes, sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. 1 or 2 guests rather like the fine china. Does your employer dine with thieves? So I suppose. If there was another victim somewhere which we were unaware, I'd have to reconsider. A 3rd bullet? It's very possible, as it would happen. Allow me to show you the 3rd bullet.
Take that!
I don't suppose this would pass as the 3rd bullet.
It passes for a bullet as much as you pass for a lawyer.
Coming from you, I'm going to take that as meaning not much. Wait. But did I present the wrong thing? What? Did I click on the wrong thing? Go back round.
Hold it!
Oh, it got separated from the pouch.
Take that!
Fuck me. I'm angry. I thought it was still in the pouch. I'm an idiot. I just forgot it got separated.
Here it is. We discovered it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Windy Bank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired. What is this new trickery, you Nipponese conjurer? Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged inside Sholmes's pouch. What? This pouch was removed from around Sholmes's waist before he was taken to hospital, and since then it has been touched by no one.
Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Skulkin brothers?
Yes, as your lordship has surmised, it hit this pouch.
But that makes no sense. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Sholmes. It's clearly visible.
Ah! 2 guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence.
Yes, that of Windy Bank and that of belonging to the Skulkin brothers.
An examining of both guns revealed that only a single bullet has been fired from each.
But that must mean...
That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets were fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ugh! Ugh! He's not happy.
Order! Order! While this summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has been built. And it is my prerogative in this situation. I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination.
By Jupiter! What?
Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once. Witnesses?
Governor?
Were you listening to the proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination? We was, Governor, we was.
Perhaps we can dispense with the tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A 3rd bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that?
Make of it, Gov?
Is it one of yours?
Gor blimey, Gor, good, not a chance.
In that case, did you have an accomplice?
What? What? Never! The Skulkin brothers work alone. It's just the 2 of us. That's our trademark.
How soon we forgot, poor Sulky. Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The 3rd bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it?
Lummy, I say, ain't scratch ya. Counsel for the defense.
Yes?
I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The 3rd bullet and the mysterious firearm from whence it came.
Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture of what really happened. I think it's clear that this 3rd bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. They had a secret accomplice. They've already said, well, imagine what he'd do to us. On that night in Windy Banks, the brothers must have been working with a 3rd man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up the existence of this accomplice, but the evidence all points to the fact that there was someone else present, someone carrying a gun.
Objection!
An accomplice, you say. Pig swill. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations, yet in all that time there has not been a murmur of a 3rd man. Yes, there has. If this apparently wraith-like being exists, the court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. Secondly, that the identity of this spurious character. The Skulkins are lying, I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of the person?
Well, counsel?
I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice and reveal their identity, even. In response to the prosecution's demand is... The prosecution's demands, my lord, the defense is... What do I have on me that can prove there was an accomplice? The blood. Because we don't know who this blood belongs to yet, because apparently it isn't Sholmes. The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my Nipponese friend. Oh! That's it. We know the person who cut his hand on the disc was the guy in the hat, was the JoJo's character, because it wasn't bloody, and then it was bloody when he took it. The blood on the wall matches his. So, my Nipponese, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. I have to push forward now, there's no other option. I need to use every piece of evidence available.
In that case, counsel, I would like you to present the evidence without delay. In the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you there was a third intruder present at the scene?
So I'm going to present the blood report for this, right? Or do I present the disc first? Because it has to be one or the other. I'm going to go with this one.
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in this portfolio.
By Jove, the portfolio again.
Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. You claim one of these blood samples proves the presence. Which one is it? That one.
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around the bullet hole.
That's the bloodstain, my lord.
A bloodstain?
Green blood, curious even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? It's something developed by Herlock Sholmes.
Why, the great detective!
New invention. Stop. Not yet appeared in stories. Stop.
It's here, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with different elements in people's blood to change its color. Different elements of people's blood?
Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what color it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is.
Oh, that brings a whole new extra dimension to looking at blood.
Talk of blood in courtroom. Stop. Very exciting. Stop. As an example, this shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Windybank.
Ah, striking blue.
Yes, so you see, the green color of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that somebody else was shot in the main part of the shop.
Now hold fire there, young man. Could this be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it?
No, it's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date in which Mr. Windybank was killed.
By golly!
Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day.
Then whose blood is it?
Well, the Skulkin brothers in the sand don't appear to be suffering any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be blood of somebody else, the third intruder. Whose identity? You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Who is this alleged third intruder?
Take that!
The man's name is Edgar Benedict.
Edgar Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about?
He paid a visit to Windybank's pawnbrokery on the afternoon before the incident took place, when the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article. That's right. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Edgar Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force. We remember, it's okay. But I demand it. Give here. Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc.
Can you corroborate this account, Inspector?
Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. And in the interest of being thorough, I asked Mr. Windybank for a print showing the fella. Taken from one of his red-handed recorder gubbinses.
Yes, that's him talking to Windybank that morning.
And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice.
So, this guy's obviously got government connections then if they didn't want this prosecution to enter this into evidence. Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin?
Never seen the geezer. He all my life, Gov. All my life, never seen him. Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree.
I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned Nipponese's friend's actual assertion, which was that he could prove the identity. Yes, and I can.
They show us the evidence.
I agree. Sorry I skipped through that too fast, but, you know, must be accurate, blah blah. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something has been missing in this trial since the start, but now I'm going to drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom.
Are you ready to present your answer, counsel?
Yes, my lord. The defense will present the evidence. The proof that shows the man pictured in this print was hit by the third bullet is the disc.
Take that!
As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendant attempted, deceitfully, admittedly, to reclaim this disc from Windy Banks.
Which is when the aforementioned Edgar Benedict appeared on the scene. The man attempted to purloin the article from the defendant, no?
That's correct, my lord. I was myself present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred. But of course, here's the disc. Very well. Goodbye. That disc. Yoink. Drawn blood. Being a music box disc, it has countless small but sharp metal protrusions on its surface. These protrusions caused Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed, and the resulting smear of blood is still visible on the disc now.
Goodness, a blood stain, is it?
My assistant and I have just analyzed the bloodstain here in this very courtroom, using my trusty fogger gun. Yes, and we added the results to this portfolio.
I say, it's green. It's exactly the same color as the blood around the calendar.
The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Edgar Benedict, who was in Windy Banks earlier in the day, is the accomplice who was present at the scene of the crime that night.
So there was someone else. Look at those two brothers now. They're sweating buckets. It's boiling in here.
My lord. Oh, God, sorry. It is the opinion of the defense that Mr. Edgar Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify.
It would certainly seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
This has gone on long enough now, this flagrant ignorance of the mechanics of law. Herlock Sholmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. The protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar classes. A god of detection or some such. And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fantastical persona in the highest court in the land? Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. So the bloodstain turned a shade of green. What of it? Here's to your successful proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same color. Ah, well. Brah. And pray, do not even think of suggesting we should take Sholmes' word for it. Is he right? Is Sholmes' concoction rubbish?
I don't know. I mean, he's a great detective. What are you talking about? Can't let him get wet?
I knew it would come to this. Of course, Sholmes' invention isn't going to be recognized by any official body. But what other choice did I have? I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said before. About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination. In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it?
Oh, good grief! What did you say, young girl?
And in the summation examination, the decision as to whether or not the trial continues is in the hands of the 6 jurors, isn't it? So the way I see it, it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's invention. At least, not for now. Yes, she's right.
Young lady, you have quite the devious mind.
It really just comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies and gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Runo. Is that about right, would you say? Or did I misunderstand something? Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes' partner is a force to be reckoned with. Iris Wilson, sharpshooter.
After that shrewd precis of the situation from an entirely unexpected source, it must be acknowledged that the previous summation examination has yet to reach its conclusion.
This is absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court now looks to your final leanings. As proud citizens of Her Majesty's Britain, I'm sure you will come to fair and just conclusions. So then, state your final decisions.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
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 Not guilty.
Close enough.
Two call guilty and four call not. Such is the outcome of the summation examination.
My lord, with all due respect, this is an outrage. The prosecution refuses to accept this decision.
On what grounds?
If these jurors are persuaded by some half-baked concoction devised by a pretender to real police work, then they are too ignorant to be trusted with the judgment of anyone's guilt.
I'm sorry, Lord Van Zykes, but the outcome of the summation examination cannot be ignored. The trial will continue.
Ugh. Ugh.
It's a shame that one doesn't work, though, isn't it? A decision has been made.
No.
Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. The defense has very reasonably requested the subpoena of a new witness. But sadly, I fear that will be impossible. What? The name the gentleman gave, Edgar Benedict, is clearly false.
I don't believe it. Just when I'd managed to prove the man was there.
Could I say something? Who was that? Who spoke?
Ah,
It was me, my lord.
juror number 5.
What have you to say, madam? If possible, Inspector.
Me, madam?
I wonder if you might show the photographic print to me again, the one in which the gentleman is shown.
Right, yeah. This one you mean, of Mr. Benedict?
Yes, there's no doubt in my mind.
Juror 5, you don't mean to say you know this man?
Yes, I know him.
What? No. Good gracious!
Order! Juror 5, how on earth?
I am a communication officer. Stop. As we can clearly see, the gentleman in the photograph is stop, and also a communications officer. Stop. He works in my office. Stop. A very talented operator, in fact. Stop. He should be in the communication station right now. Stop. Tapping away on the telegraph. Stop. This doesn't seem right somehow. I can't put my finger on why, but it doesn't feel right. I suppose we all imagined the accomplice would be some sort of hardened criminal. It's a bit unexpected to find out he has a respectable job day by day, whatever he gets up to at night. Yes, I suppose that's it. That's why I felt something was wrong.
If the gentleman is at London's communication station, we should be able to subpoena him within the hour. Lord Van Zykes, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Make the necessary arrangements with all haste.
As your lordship bids.
The court will recess for 1 hour. When the new witness arrives, we shall reconvene. Inspector Gregson?
Yes, my lord.
I should like to hear from you specifically about events at the pawnbrokery on the day in question. Come to my chambers during the recess.
Yes, sir, my lord.
Very well. Court is adjourned until 1:40 p.m.
We did it, team. We've delayed the city's destruction.